Hello, amazing people. Welcome back. We are entering the final stages of our abstract family portrait design. This is going to be a mixed media project. We have a watercolor background and whatever you use to color your people in. So I used some markers here so they were bright and vibrant. I tried doing this one other time with a different background and it was a little too busy for me. Even though I really love the background, I didn't feel my family members stood out enough. So I chose to have a simple background with pops of colors. You are going to need to decide how to design your stuff. You want to have those who are closest to you closer together. So my mom, my daughter, and I are the biggest objects. So I made them bigger to show that they were the emphasis in my family. And then here's my brother's family. They're all clustered together, connected by these golden lines. And that shows how they're part of it. But they're next to us because they're related. Here's my golden line connecting my brother and I. Here's my mom connecting to my brother. And my brother's connected to his wife and daughters in a circle. My Uncle Mark's the only oddball out here, so he's connected over here to my mom to show how they're related. But you're probably going, how do I get from this to this part? So we're going to go from having your pieces here to deciding how they're going to lay out here. You're going to start off with a blank piece of paper. Now, as you can see from my original design here, my mom, my daughter, and I are the same size as everyone else. So I actually had to redraw them bigger. And when I redrew them, I also placed them how I wanted them. And if this is something you want to do, I will happily give you paper so that you can do it. Fiddle with it so that you know how you want things to go. I like to have my things flow to each other. That's why I have my mom's part flowing into my daughter. And this here also kind of symbols it and it gets a little space in between showing that we're connected. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our paper and we're going to redesign how we want to have everything put out on here. The final paper that we're going to have is going to be 11 by 10 inches. Okay, so this here is 11.5 by 8, so you're going to have a little bit of space out over on this side. So please know that when you take into consideration. What I did for my originally when I was planning it all out, I took my ideas that I had, my characters, and I kind of fiddled with them and did just a quick sketch. So I knew that I wanted my brother to be here, right? Spikes. Okay. And then I wanted his wife, his arm to come up here, and his wife has the same kind of symbol thing here, so it looks like they're connecting, almost touching. And then I wanted to have their children together. So I have his daughter and his other daughter. That's my scribbles there, okay? And then I wanted to make sure that I had my whole family here. So I was going to do my mom, my daughter, and then myself. These are my quick sketches. Then I also had my uncle, so we're going to put him over here. So I knew this is how I kind of wanted to have it. So my next step that I was going to take was taking these and making sure I had them. But first, I knew that I wanted mine to be bigger, so I had to redraw them. So that's what I did, is here as I redrew them in the shape I wanted. As you can see, I have it here, so you can see that they're kind of the same way. They're not perfect, but they're kind of the same. So to get mine together, I'm going to use tracing paper. Okay? So I have my brother and his wife and their children. And what I did is I traced over using the tracing paper and got my pieces together. Now, you want to make sure that when you're using tracing paper here in class that I give you, that you have all your pieces that you want on there in the way you want them. So you could actually, as you're going through here, decide, okay, so I have her there, so I'm going to put my brother here, and I put it on my paper how I want it. That is one way that you can do this and decide to plan it out. Once you have, let me finish drawing this real quick. I'm going to do a really quick job. You are going to take more time and be calm about it. And so you have these beautiful pieces of work that you've already done. Okay. So I have two of these here. Let's pretend that I have the whole thing here. I've got a piece here. If I want to show my pieces and transfer them using the paper, I first must flip it over and trace it on the other side again, following those lines as exact as I can. All right, so when I do this, this means that I am going to be able to flip the paper over and have it however I want it to be, and they're an exact copy of my original drawings. This is one way that you don't have to continue to redraw everything. If you would like to redraw it, that is okay too. If you have a piece that is smaller than a quarter, so if your images are really tiny, you're going to need to make them bigger no matter what, because this is about having some bigger pieces. All right, so I have my pieces here, and with the tracing paper, I can know exactly where I need to put my items. Okay, so I can take my final paper, and I have these here, and decide, okay, this is where I'm going to have it. And once I put it down, and you have all your pieces already drawn out, you trace over it a third time. Now, while you're doing this, what's happening is it's making a copy because of your pencil, the graphite, on the opposite side. If you don't have tracing paper, you can use your windows. You can put it up just like before to make a copy of it, of your windows, and that will help you make an exact copy of your work so that you have it for this final piece. Okay? So as you can see here, here's my piece. It's still light in some areas, so I go in and make sure that I have it. All right? We are going to pretend that I did all that out. So this is at the stage. So this is where I have my entire design laid out. The next step that you're going to do is take your ultra fine Sharpie. So it's the one with the really tiny tip. That's the one you want. And you are now going to outline your pieces so that you have them very nicely done. Remember, it's not a race. We're going to go slow. All right, there we go. We have this part done. The next part that we're going to do, we are now going to erase our pencil lines. We no longer need them. So Going back through, cleaning up our work. We have everything we need to get going on the next step, okay? So quickly erasing pencil lines so that we have it. Have nice big bold outlines of our family members. Okay, shook it off so that I have everything off. Okay. From here, you are now going to paint. I'm going to pause for a second and get my watercolor set up. All right, here we are with my watercolors. I have my water, my paintbrush, and my paper towels here so that I'm not making too big of a mess. There's one thing I wanted to do. I decided I wanted balls of color in my work to show that our life is nice and bright and wonderful. So I just gently sketched some circles around my piece. They didn't have to be perfect. I didn't need them to be, but I just kind of put them in there wherever I felt the need to have one. This way I could have my circles of stuff be wherever I needed it. And I could have them however I want. So that's what I'm going to do for the next couple minutes here is I just draw some circles. Now, I also wanted to show that my family is connected. So to do that, what I did is I took and I drew a line. Now, I wanted to show that children come from parents, so I have it wider on the parent and narrow on the child, which allows us to have some unique lines coming along our paper and shows how they're connected. Now, I don't have a line going between my mom and my granddaughter on my other piece, but I'm going to put one now because I want to show that they're connected because they're my mom's a very important part of my daughter's life. So I did a little connector there. Now for here, and between my brother and I wanted to show that we're equal, so I have it wide on both ends of us to show that we're equal. Same with my uncle and my mom. Okay. Then from the kids, I'm just going to draw across here so I have a nice even line and know it, and then I can erase. Go back in and erase. Okay. Which means sometimes a lot of the line is hidden by the actual person, my design of them. That's okay. All right, so there's all my connector lines. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to start adding my colors. So I'm going to add my water to my watercolors so I have them ready to go. And we practiced on our watercolor sheets so that we knew how to mix some colors, because that is going to help us in this whole thing. Now, I have all these wonderful circles. I want to make sure that I have something unique in them. I'm going to start off with a little bit of red here. And I'm working pretty wet, so I have a lot of water on my paintbrush here. And what I'm going to do is get my color the way I want, and I'm going to leave splotches of it. So you can see it's really wet. Okay, really wet. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab like some blue and just touch it down and see how it spreads. So I can have it so it spreads just like that. All right. See here. Add a little bit of yellow. There's my spreading. So that's kind of a cool thing. The glare is kind of hard to see, but it does spread. And I just then leave it to dry. So we're going to go with a nice orange over here. Okay. Here is my planets. Now, one thing I'm going to be doing here is I want to have my background be blacks. So I'm going to actually add quite a bit of water to my black to dilute it because it's really black. And I don't want it to be. And then I'm going to start coming in here and painting my black. Adding more water so that I can come and make it lighter. Trying to be careful with all my edges because I want it to be nice and neat, not just this blob of mess, right? If I'm blobby with it, it's not pretty. I'm going to go slow along my edges so I'm not painting too much into them. That way, I can make sure it's all nice and neat. Very nice and neat. So I'm going slow. I'm going to go slow up against my also lines that I'm going to be doing later on in my other thing. I have some gold that I'm going to put there so that they can attach to each other. Be here. So again, being very careful around my lines and around my marks so that they're not doing it. My purple there's a little wet, so it's bleeding. So it'd be good for me to wait at this time to get it so that I just do the areas that I know are not going to bleed. That way, I'm not disrupting the actual pieces that I've done before, and they can be how I want. Going over here to add some water because I have too much water on my paintbrush. That specific area. Again, just kind of brushing it out, trying to make sure not to make other things bleed, though I did there a little bit too. It's best if it's dry. That's the best thing about watercolors is if they're dry. So it allows you to get in there and get close to it again. You can reactivate it with more water, being gentle. Going slow, making sure you have your lines the way you definitely want them to be. Okay? Making it as beautiful as you can because this is an amazing thing that you're doing here. You're making a beautiful piece of artwork. Continue painting this until you're done. And then I will pause here and I'll show you what it's like when it's done. Being careful, and then I will go on to the marker part. So that's what we're doing. So keep going. All right, through the magic of pausing, you can see here I have my entire background painted. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn it into this here. I'm going to take my markers and I'm going to color it in and see how I want it using my template before of all the colors I had. Then you will have your final finished piece. I will take a picture of my final finished piece for this one here when it's all completed. I look forward to seeing all of your work.